All right. I left my faith and all I got was this podcast. Yes. All right. So, hello, my name is Micah Herrera, and we also...
Haley's sending her first correction.
Oh. Yeah, it's I lost my faith. I lost my faith. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, woman in the chair. Yeah. Sure, yeah, woman in the chair.
Wait, here we go. I lost my faith.
Very important.
All right, hold on. Here we go. All right, I lost my faith, and all I got was this podcast. Welcome. My name is Micah Herrera, and I have with me...
George Alexander.
Okay. Now, we're two friends who came together, and... tell me a little bit about yourself, George.
Yeah, I am a practicing therapist. I think a little bit part of my role or perspective I'm bringing to the podcast. So I grew up Mormon, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm no longer affiliated or doing much more of that, but I'm now living out here in California. Starting to practice therapy, recently finished up getting like my hours. So I'm branching out, and a little piece of that branching out is going to be hopefully providing like support for people who have had similar experiences with, having faith and moving through it. And so, that's a bit more, I guess. We'll get into that, but that's a little bit who I am.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. And I guess my question would be like, so you were before, what kind of therapy were you doing?
Yeah, so I've been working and still am working in community mental health. Generally with lower income individuals. I've been working with homelessness. We're working also with clients experiencing schizophrenia, substance use disorder. So kind of a little bit all over the place. It's fairly common when you're getting your hours. You can kind of take a couple different routes of like going directly into more of a private practice type, people coming in, kind of your traditional, or like a community agency that's providing more of these public services. And that is a big passion I have. So it's something I've been doing for a while. It's gave me a bunch of different opportunities, different, I guess, like a broad, different array of clients to see.
Yeah.
I kind of found that I didn't like as much of like the working with like schizophrenia and the high crisis. It's definitely a very important work. I learned a lot, but it's for my own burnout and mental health is something I couldn't necessarily continue to do. So still working with a nonprofit agency though, doing that kind of work, and now moving more into some private practice as well.
Yeah. And your plan is to focus more on faith, like, or at least some of it, right? Some of your practice, you want to focus on people who maybe have come out of faith and they're recovering from that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did faith ever come up like in your previous therapist work, like for work in therapy? Did faith come up a lot?
Somewhat more. When it would come up, I'm fairly like an eclectic therapist. So I don't have necessarily like a very like structured paradigm that I'm following. So I do a lot of collaboration with clients and try to like really draw on their strengths and interests in like the work we're doing. And so it more so come through when there's clients who have like a spirituality that they like utilize for their life. And I try to help them, or we'd incorporate that into the work we were doing to almost more as like a coping skill. Yeah. Right. Or like better like utilizing or better like relating to whatever that looked like. So not necessarily like the deconstruction aspect that I'm hoping to like provide like a support and like, it may not always be a deconstruction. It may just be people who want somebody that they don't have to explain like what it's like to leave a Christian faith. Right. So we may be talking about things that aren't necessarily like religious trauma, but still just having like that understanding.
Right. Yeah. And I'm just curious how much that enters into trauma therapy or like therapy for schizophrenic people or people who are having episodes, things like that. Like how much does faith come up? Because
it's interesting like with like on the schizophrenia, oftentimes like religious, I guess themes are very closely related or come come out during like those episodes.
Really?
Yeah, it's very common. I've worked in various settings of individuals believing they're Jesus, and like when they're on a bipolar episode and they have like those kind of manic symptoms that come with like a grandiosity that then like melds with their religious beliefs, or a lot of like anxiety about the end of the world is a big thing as well.
Well, I have a feeling that we'll get into that a little bit. Yeah. And I have heard that a part of those, a part of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder is that you do have these grandiose visions of yourself, or like, which we've seen played out in public, plenty of times, but that's definitely part of it. So, okay. We'll have to talk about that, because I wonder how much that does intertwine with where we've come from and the faiths that we've had. Like, where are some of these people? I mean, we'll get into this with your Mormonism. Was Joseph Smith a little bit,
right? Like we're like
mentally ill. We could speculate. We'll see. Schizophrenic. I mean, who knows? Was Jesus schizophrenic? Believing he was God?
Or even like even beyond like a schizophrenic, or even like the like substance use as well. Right? Yeah. I think that's an interesting just idea that is in like the modern conceptualization of a lot of religions is like scraped over or denied or like pushed aside in the way that it wasn't in ancient times. Right? Like I think psychedelics and those things were much more like common and like utilized in like a cultural aspect that we don't in like in America, right? And that's like denied. That's there's a ton of those kind of theories about Mormonism, about mercury poisoning, about different things like that were causing.
I don't know about this.
Or about what is it? Argot. Is that what it was, Halie?
Argot.
In something that was causing hallucinations. Psilocybin ride. Yeah, it's something related to I think it's argot. Something like another kind of psychedelic.
So all that to say, we're going to explore these topics here on this podcast. I lost my faith, and all I got was this podcast.
Right.
Okay.
And who are you, though, before we go far?
Yeah.
More about you.
All right. My name is Micah Herrera. I grew up in Texas. We are in California now, but I grew up in Texas. I grew up in an family that came from all different kinds of faith backgrounds. I mean, it's Christian. It was Christian, Protestant background. But I was Nazarene, Baptist, Assemblies of God, evangelical. Really, the one that was big for most of my upbringing was evangelical Christianism, which is just what they call, it basically is not a denomination, so it's a little bit untethered. So everyone's a little bit different, but they call it Bible-believing Christians, which basically means fundamentalist Christian. I believe everything that the Bible says is true, and that's the word of God, bar none.
Yeah.
I came from a fundamentalist evangelical background. I would call it a cult. It definitely had plenty of cultish practices, and even the church that I was in, we were associated, and even the core church that the Word of Faith and televangelist movement birthed out of, with Kenneth Copeland and Jerry Savelle and big leaders like that, which if you don't know those names, we'll explain those. We'll get to those names and what they mean. I came out of that. I grew up in that, and basically, made my way out and made my way to California, and we'll get more into that story. But basically, I am just a person who has been very passionate about figuring out the big questions in life and figuring out what it all means, and that's why I was so involved spiritually with the Christian church. It was just what I knew. And then, as I deconstructed my faith, I just really tried to learn as much as I could about the truth of the world that we live in, as much as one can. And that's why I'm here, because we've had lots of conversations about this. And other than that, I am all sorts of things. I'm a creative artist, musician, performer, and I just love to create things in the world. And part of that is this podcast. So I don't have any therapy expertise, but I think one of the things that I do bring to the table is that I have spent many years studying kind of the evangelical movements, what's going on there, and having to look into the therapy world and the psychology world to better understand it, to better get a grasp on rationalizing it, because it's so hard to rationalize. I think I was texting you that last night.
Yeah.
Like, it is so hard to rationalize what we believed growing up.
Right.
And so I've had to at least dig into that, at least on some level. And yeah, so we've talked about this so much that we have to talk about this.
We have to put some mics on.
We have to record it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I was going to say, that's exactly like, I think that's one of the original things we really like connected over and like bonded over, was like talking about our individual experiences. You gave me that Richard Dawkins book, I think
I did, yeah. So, I mean, The God Delusion's up there.
Yeah.
That's one of the first ones that I read that really shook everything that I believed.
And so, at that point, we were both out of religion ourselves, right? We were just kind of processing, and I think that's kind of what I see this a little bit like a continuation of for myself, like continued processing. Like I said, like I'm taking a step like in my professional life to like incorporate this, and it was something I kind of was hesitant to do, like moved away from. I think for some like imposter syndrome aspects, right?
Okay.
And also like, you know, as a therapist, you try to remain impartial, right? I don't necessarily want to enter my relationships with my clients having like an opinion on what they're bringing necessarily, and that made me kind of hesitant to like move into providing like support in this area, because I didn't know how impartial I could be. I think I've done some more processing that I do feel like, and like I've more just processing of my thoughts around that, that I can just draw on my experience more so to be like a safer space to reduce some of like the explaining you might have to do with somebody who doesn't know what a Mormon mission is, and and the experience of what going on a Mormon mission is, and how that impacts you. And I can kind of utilize that experience. And so all that to say, like, I hope this is another space to continue to like do more of that processing, learn more from your story, learn from other stories, not necessarily give like official therapy advice. This is not official therapy. Disclaimer.
Of course.
But yeah, like I hope to like one day be like an expert, right, on like faith deconstruction. I don't know that I'd call myself that at this point. But I know if I'm an expert on my own experience, which I feel others could maybe relate to. Right?
Absolutely.
And that allows me to relate to them. So, I'm hoping we can really like learn from a lot of different people, learn from each other too.
Absolutely. And I fully intend to ask the hard-hitting questions. We're going to get down to it. I think for me, this podcast is a lot of, like I said to you, like turning over the trash pile of the religion that we came from and religion in general. Yeah. And really taking a deep look and really processing, understanding. I think I've come to a place in my life where I am much more moderate, and because when you come out of it, you're very angry. There's a lot of emotions that happen when you come out of religion and you realize, oh, this thing I believed that was true was actually not, and a lie, and the framing of the world that I was given is not a functional framing of the world. All of these things that make you angry because you feel like you were lied to, and that's so much, and for so much time, and for so much effort, and for so much of what you invest in it. And so I had to get over the angry part and come back to it. I am still very much anti-theist, atheist, for the most part. I mean, you could call me an agnostic if you wanted to get really down into the definition, technical definition, because nobody can really know. Yeah. But there are things that are very much, very likely, and that's kind of where I stand. Yeah. And I've kind of come to this moderate place where I feel like, of course, like when you're providing therapy to somebody and they have personal beliefs, Of course, those things are important to them. You don't just run in there and well, this is wrong. Psh,
Yeah.
How dare you? You should change your whole worldview on top of having a crisis right now, which would just absolutely not help anybody. So that's not the intention. That's not like what you're doing. But for the purposes of seeking truth and the purposes of understanding, I feel like is why this is important. Yeah. Like talking about this stuff is important. And it's definitely not to just go, psh, you're wrong. All the Mormons out there, you're all stupid and whatever, or all the Christians, you're all stupid or whatever.
Right.
I have opinions about what people believe, but hopefully more than anything, it's revealing, it's helping understand better.
Yeah, I think just like open discussion is like the strongest weapon we have. Just like, or maybe not weapon, but like strongest tool we have, right? Of just being able to talk about things openly. I don't think I'll say I am like a professional fence sitter in my life. I've accepted it about me.
All right, I might have to push you a couple times. I'll push you off that fence. But
I've accepted it and tried to form it into more of a strength. So I definitely still have like a lot of, and I will say too, for myself, I think I have like with my gender, race, sexuality, status,
socioeconomic, yes. You got it.
Status, like growing up, a lot of protective factors against some of like the trauma I could have experienced, like with my religious experience that I own and like know paints like the way that I'm able to now have like a fluidity, I think, in like my opinions about, people who are religious and religion overall. I have my own opinions about what I think like for sure for me works and what I think generally works. But I do think like I have a pretty open like mindfulness, once again influenced by like those protective factors. So but like of course too, like I want this to be like an open conversation to like express like those angers, those things, and like but not necessarily like us expressing that is like a condemnation of other people, because I know we both have like people we respect that we know we love that may be religious and may have these opinions, and we don't have to think the exact same as them. And,
no.
So we might.
No, I think, we'll have to talk more about those relationships too. I would like to talk about those relationships. Yeah, to your point, I do think I have seen other people that talk about religion get really comfortable in the armchair talking about religion, and because they're from a place of comfort, it makes it very easy for them to just fence sit, maybe, or maybe it's not really understand the weight of some things that the effect that religion has on people, or the hurt that it can have on people, or whatever it is. The power of religion. Some people can forget that because they're in this sheltered place of comfortability. And, I know I've seen very raw, harsh damage been done by religion. And so it's not easy for me to sit back and go, well, if you want to believe, you can, I do think that people should have the right to believe whatever they want to believe. But getting to your point, I have some strong opinions. I may, and that's why I'm probably going to be more of that voice for this podcast. And you can level me out there and help me keep level-headed.
And you can pull me up when I need to be pulled up.
All right, I'll just take my foot and just drop kick you right off that fence. Like, let's go. All right. Okay. So to continue on, I think we should start with your story.
Let's do it. For sure.
With George Amadeus Alexander,
the third,
George Winifred Alexander the seventh, the 13th.
Winifred's good.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So maybe we can start. Is there somewhere you would like to start?
I can just give let me just start with the general background of my history, slight. Family history, I guess, in the church?
Do you want to start there? Do you want to start with how far does Mormonism go back? Because that's your religion that you grew up in. How far does it go back with your family?
Um, 200 years about.
So your family have been Mormons for 200 years.
Yes.
Wow.
I'll have to fact check that.
Okay.
Because I feel like there might be some like apocryphal stories, like family stories that I need to like double check or actual fact.
Right,
but
rather
like,
than myth. Yeah.
Right. But like there's like stories of like a Alexander like being in like upstate New York and like watching Joseph Smith like get taken off to like die.
Oh, wow.
Right. So
okay, so we're talking
like
Mormon
OG,
royalty here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like late 1830s, right? So nearly 200 years. And really on both sides of my family. So that's my dad's side of the family, and pretty much since then, Mormons. And then on my mom's side of the family, I'm not sure like every arm of it, but I know like I have an ancestor in like the 1850s, 60s, was converted by a missionary in Europe. And then he wasn't faithful enough, so she left him and went to Utah to marry another Mormon.
Oh,
so like she like trekked the world. And so yeah, like it's been pretty much,
Now, how common is this that what I would call like a Mormon dynasty family?
I don't know. I'd say fairly common. Like I think like especially like I grew up in Utah.
Okay,
right?
yeah, I was about to ask. Utah is the place where
place to be,
that's the homeland. That's the Mecca of Mormon.
This is the place, is what Brigham Young said when he saw it.
Oh, okay. And so, how long have your family been in Utah?
Since then,
200 years.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, right. Since
years.
they came, like I'm like I said, I could find this because like Mormons are all into. Cool. They're into family history, and so
I love
like,
the
there's
data.
a lot of, right. Like we've got the stories. Like I have like journal entries from this like great whatever grandmother.
You might have to read some of those.
Yeah, no, I love to read. It's very interesting, and like so it's been just like in my family forever. None of my parents or grandparents were converts.
Okay.
Well, my mother's father is not Mormon, or he was not Mormon.
Okay.
But him and my grandmother split when my mom was pretty young.
Yeah.
So she was raised Mormon. It's just kind of like the way it is kind of how it feels like in my family. Right?
Okay.
That's just like what it's been.
So before we get to like your childhood,
Yeah.
How strong was that? Did you feel that growing up? Because you've had 200 years of Mormonism.
I don't think I thought about like the 200 years of Mormonism, but I did feel like a Alexander pride thing. I have
family pride. That's
which is really great. But like, I felt like I have a couple uncles. I love them to death, and they just like I don't know how to put it or how I experienced it, but I just like felt like these are the Alexanders. Like
I see.
I don't know exactly how to say it, but like I felt like an Alexander pressure, or like something to live up to, or something that I was like part of, and I had to like be mindful of, right?
Yeah. Okay, so your childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that like in the Mormon church, or what would you like to say about that? What was your journey like?
I mean, it was pretty. So the way I describe a lot of my experience with the church, and especially when I was older and before I left, was a lot of like sleepwalking through it.
Okay.
It was, growing up in Utah, like either everyone was Mormon or I assumed they were, right? For right or wrong.
Right.
And to be honest, like especially then, like early 2000s, late 90s, I was usually right in the assumption, right? Like most people around me were Mormon.
Yeah.
And so it was
just wild.
Right. Which is like, I think I'm interested to hear more of your story because that's just like the way I experienced it as like this is the way things are.
Yeah.
Which left me to a lot of mindlessness around it for a very long time.
And this was all through elementary, grade school. It was all Mormons.
So I was born in Idaho, also very Mormon.
Right.
By the time I was 5, I moved to Riverton, Utah.
Okay.
Shout out. And
Hello, Riverton.
Stand up.
What was the mascot?
Go Wolves, Silver Wolves.
Wolves. Okay, Wolves. All right.
Yes. And moved into a house in 1999 and lived there until I went on my mission in 2015, right? Or 2013. I got married in 2015. This will be another story. Yeah, so it was just kind of an assumption. And like I said, like it led to just like a mindlessness around it because it was the way it was. Like my family was not super active in it.
Okay.
In the sense that like we were never like completely, because that's like a terminology that's used. Like you have like your less active, inactive, active members, right? And like there'll be like church meetings where they're talking through like the less active members or the inactive members and how to bring them back. Like I think we may have been in some of those meetings here or there.
Okay.
Right? Where we weren't doing like the waking up every morning and reading our Book of Mormon. We would try. We would do it for like a little bit and then it would like taper off.
Okay, so that's something they tell you to do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty common.
Right.
In American religion anyways, just in general.
Yeah.
Now, what was I thinking? It was, well, you say you weren't active, so like how much did it permeate your life?
It definitely still permeated.
Okay.
Like even when we're not going to church every week, like we were still Mormon. Like that was like our identity and like that was important. Like there was never that like we were not Mormon. It was just like it wasn't like we were fanatical, I guess would be what I'd say.
Okay.
And it was more like we would just like let my parents sleep in and like we wouldn't go to Sunday for like 3 weeks in a row.
Oh.
There's like that kind of thing, right? But like even all that, like I was an Eagle Scout. Like my mom like pushed me to do like the Boy Scouts back when the church was with them. So yeah, like not like complete ever disconnection from it.
Okay.
But just not like gung ho.
Sure. Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it can be, it goes to degrees. I have noticed with religion, you know, how much it is thought about within the decisions of a day.
Yes.
Even. So what I'm gathering is that maybe it wasn't, you know, it was always in the background. It's always there.
Yeah.
Right? It's all around you. Maybe the decisions are already made because you kind of have a preformed community that's fitted to this religion.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Because what were some of the things that you, like growing up, being a Mormon, that you did not experience because you were in this community that was fit for Mormonism? Like
what I didn't experience in the Mormon church, or just like
what like in general, like of the outside world. Do you feel like outside looking in now? Do you feel like there was a sheltering that was going on, like just based geographically?
Yeah, for sure. And like I think like honestly, I think a lot of people like Mormon people outside of Utah. I guess maybe it's a time to shout out. I know the church wants us saying the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Oh, okay.
Instead of Mormon. We'll try, is all I can say.
Is that what we're supposed to do? We're supposed to say church? Okay.
They have requested. Okay. We'll try.
Well,
that's
we'll
what I can say. We'll
see if we can honor their formal request.
But people outside of Utah, I think would say the experience of like being a Mormon growing up in Utah is different than being Mormon growing up outside of Utah, right?
Right.
And you're in a community where it's, that assumption isn't there. Because I think that really did, like the assumption aspect of it allowed it to really go to the back of my head in a way that like it was dictating everything in my life, right?
Okay.
Like I got baptized as a kid. I got baptized when I was 9. You're supposed to get baptized when you're 8. There's a delay. You know, hey, there's a scheduling. I don't know.
You missed it.
A little late on the
You messed
draw.
up, kid.
But yeah, so I think it was always present, but like being there like allowed it to really be in the back of my mind, like growing up.
Okay.
Definitely, yeah, but I think like things we missed out on were, how to say it, like when you're in like an environment where it's assumed everyone has the same opinion, I think you miss out on a lot of valuable like growth.
Yes.
Right. Valuable opportunity. And like, especially like
this is something you have to learn after you get out too.
Yeah.
Because you don't even know that there is altering different opinion.
Right. Right. and that's viewed as a threat in a lot of ways. Right?
Of course. Yeah.
Anything. And Yeah, and even conflict itself is viewed oftentimes as a negative thing, and so it's hard to have like effective conflict, to work through things, to work through ideas. And so I think that was something that I was missing out on, like growing up a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Were there, what about like, let's say like the arts? Did the arts permeate your community, or were they shut out? What was the deal there?
I'd say like the arts were fairly present. I think like Mormon churches are fairly, I think like you would especially think, bland. The church,
Me especially, yes.
the church services are very bland.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But there is like an appreciation for like art, I'd say.
Okay.
Like it's.
Is there an appreciation for Mormon art or Church of Latter-day Saints art, or is it?
I mean,
or
you have like
can they
Donny
appreciate-
Osmond,
Okay.
right? Like the Osmonds.
Oh, yep, that's right, the
Like, you have the
Osmonds, that's true.
Osmonds. I'm trying to think of other examples. That might
Like,
be my only.
I guess,
reference point.
like, how much did pop culture permeate you? Was the internet? You know, were you sheltered from the internet? Was
No.
there like okay?
I don't think Mormons were ready for the internet.
Okay. Now that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, we might talk about that in the history of
Yeah,
the church
for
and
sure.
like what it did. So because you grew up like in the rise of the internet, right? So these are like the 2000s, late 90s, 2000s, right? And was that part of your journey? Like, tell me how was that a part of your journey with Mormonism?
So, I mean, I think the internet is a big part of, I guess. What do you mean?
Well,
before
like
I
you
answer?
personally,
Yeah.
like you personally, do you feel like the internet had an effect on your journey with Church of Latter-day Saints and being a Mormon?
Well, yeah. So, internet pornography,
Oh, okay.
I would say, is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it was part of my experience with the church too, right?
Okay.
So, I was 12, 13.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
In like 2006, 2007.
Yeah.
And I think this is a very common thing, right? Where,
Well, definitely for young men. Like,
Oh,
in
yeah.
the- yeah.
Right, you get
just growing up in those years,
Right.
And now too,
Right.
it's a whole thing.
Yeah, and like and that's one piece I think like the church wasn't ready for when I say
Okay.
because sex education is not a thing,
Yes.
right?
Yes. So you have repression.
Repression, and then all of a sudden availability,
Right.
no conversation, no
Yeah.
conversation.
Here's an
right?
internet, and I can just go to town.
Yeah.
Such boobies. Sorry. That's the only word I can probably say.
So in my like personal story, which I said like I think is very common, internet pornography,
Okay.
family finds out.
Yeah. Oh, so this happened to you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't, so again, like my parents are, I love my parents, still very close with them. We'll talk about the navigation of my faith loss and everything else too.
Yeah.
I think my parents like really tried their best in all things. And I think that their own upbringing and the church failed them in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Shout out to parents.
Right,
I mean, they
like-
do what they can.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like, I just want to like claim that like my
Right.
parents like did everything they could, but
Yeah.
I don't think that they were equipped to effectively handle like that conversation.
Oh, sure.
Conversations about sex. I never had it. Never had it. And so,
Same.
but like on the pornography side, very common thing where I find that at 12, I begin looking at pornography. It's talked about very negatively in the church about like who you are as a person with pornography.
Okay.
And so it leads to, and in myself, and I think in a lot of men in the church, it leads to this feeling that you're broken, dirty, everything else.
Course,
And it
yes.
becomes this vicious cycle.
Yes.
Right? But there are various things the church tries to quote unquote do to help,
Right.
but that is not very effectively addressed, I'd say. And not even that's effectively addressed because it's not something that needs to be addressed, right? Like,
Okay.
I think sexual exploration, development, and curiosity are very human things.
Yes.
That become villainized in religion.
Of course.
And so that was my experience.
This is a lot of people's journey with religion. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, my own as well. And I think, so your teen years, you definitely had a conflicted journey.
Right.
Like many youth do. They're like, I am such a terrible sinner.
Yeah.
I'm failing God because I can't control my body and I don't know what's happening and my brain is still developing, but to me, I'm just failing God, right? And even then, were you ever afraid of hell growing up? Is that a whole Mormon thing?
Yeah. It's called outer darkness.
Outer darkness. Okay, that's their hell?
Okay. You have 3 levels of heaven. You only get to the highest if you're married.
Mm-hmm.
And then the idea is that like the other 2 are more beautiful than Earth, but you can't get to the celestial kingdom because God's there.
Of course.
And it's not that he doesn't want you there, but you won't want to be there because you're not clean enough. Right. So you go to these other ones.
It's too powerful.
But then outside of those 3, there's what's called outer darkness, and that's reserved for like the worst of the worst.
Okay. What happens there?
Damnation. I don't know. I don't know if there's I could maybe find.
Well, because the Christian ideal is torture and pain and burning in hell and all this stuff. So it's not quite that with Church of the Latter-day Saints.
I think that's insinuated with like an outer darkness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm wondering, like when you were a kid, were you afraid of these things? Were you afraid of not being at the right level or not getting to the right level? Was this a part of?
I was more so afraid of letting people down.
Okay. Who?
My parents.
Okay.
My parents, my family.
Yeah.
The adults around me, that. So yeah, I don't remember having big. Eternal fear around it, I guess. So going back to that, like the idea of, or like that development, like in my teens and pornography, I think that what that really started to develop in me, and I think in me, was like a dissociation, right? A compartmentalization of myself and my relationship to religion. Okay. Like I said, I think some people connect just more easily with religious ideas and those and find peace from it. I never did. I think that's for whatever reason. I think that's part of the I kind of view it as like a frog in like boiling water. Yeah. My Utah experience, right? So I didn't. It was never like a punch in the face, like religious awakening. Okay. So what was I getting at? But then I started to feel dirty, gross, all those things. And so there's a dissociation element where
So did that lead you closer into Mormonism or did it push you away?
I don't know if it did either. I would make fetal grasps to get closer to it.
Okay.
But I had a difficult time connecting to it.
Yeah.
And I almost I'm finding myself having a hard time sharing it in this light because I feel like the response from a Mormon person, right, or the Mormon idea would be that is this falling?
Is it falling down? You can readjust it. Got it. I don't know. It might be. Let's see if we can go. Then maybe bring it a little.
Okay.
There you go, like that. Okay. There we go.
Would be that the presence of pornography was what kept me from connecting with it, right? Because I spiritually dampened, which was definitely a fear,
right? Yeah,
right? And that's something that kept me in the church, I think, for a long time.
Oh, okay.
Is this idea that I wasn't perfect, and so I was spiritually dampened, and that's why it wasn't working for me.
That's why you weren't able to connect. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I find myself sometimes believing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it can creep back in.
Yeah,
I mean, it's built-in manipulation. Right. Yeah. It's just very, very strong. I know. I understand this. It's funny. I ask these questions because they're so opposite in my experience and experience of many people around me, in my evangelical Christian religion. So I'm wondering, is it a thing with Mormons that maybe, or from what you might know, is it possibly more common that Mormons have a harder problem connecting with the religion, as a fundamentalist thing, or like, really, really getting into it, really getting excited about it?
I think there definitely are people who are excited about it.
Yeah.
I think there. I think it is maybe a consequence of like the coming to Utah, being in like a very like
this being in a community, like I'm excited because I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, but then I think like as time progresses, it leads to like a complacency,
maybe a disillusionment.
Right. I mean, I think like the numbers show that that's what the church is going through, right? Is that there is, one, the internet again coming back. I think they weren't prepared for information availability. And I think, just like this like growth of like, it's hard. I do think like it's harder to connect to like this, like an inherited spiritual experience. Yeah. I mean, I'm speaking from my experience with that, right? But like, I was kind of running off of like my ancestor from the 1830s that thought this was a good thing, right? And then everyone down the line like felt like agreed and kept going.
I mean, what a trail of like loyalty and like family values being passed down. That's interesting. Yeah, and not entirely bad in a sense of like the core idea of family values being passed down, but. I wonder what that's like. I mean, again, that's a little bit opposite from my experience as well. And, it probably makes questioning those things or revising or revisiting those things a lot harder.
Yes.
Which again, is a little bit opposite of what I was raised around, but we'll get to that. So that's your teen years, your young years. What about coming up to your mission and going on your mission? You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So I'd say I just kind of that generally the same place, right? Whereas like trying to get into it, trying to connect with it.
Yeah.
I think
tell me what it's like leading up to a mission. Cause what age do you do this?
You're 19. When I went, it was 19. They've changed it to 18 now.
Oh, got to get them younger.
Yeah. Okay. They do. It's 19. So I was in high school.
Yeah. What do they talk about this all your high school years?
They talk about this from the moment you are born. I think it's another thing that's changing, but I'm going to speak from the church that I grew up in.
Well, it's probably one of the things that people outside of the religion know most about Mormonism or Church of Latter-day Saints.
Right. No, it's a very common thing though. Like you're in primary is like your classes when you're a kid, and it's like young men like only serve like your only option is to serve a mission.
Keep going.
And young ladies, your only job is to marry a returned missionary. Like that was like the messaging, right? And it was like like they would like say like in classes like young women like only marry returned missionaries. Like don't even consider men who have not gone on a mission. Like that was the messaging.
Wow.
Like I said, it softened because there were a lot of mental health issues. There were a lot of people who were going on missions who should not have been, who were not prepared.
Oh, okay. So they had some things go wrong maybe where they're like, okay, maybe we can't do this.
They've softened the language around it for sure. But when I was growing up, it was like no question. And then in my own family, like I said, I had like those uncles I mentioned. I had a lot of cousins, a lot of missionary cousins. It was also always a really cool thing to see like where they were going. Yeah. All that stuff. It was like a big thing. And then I do have an older brother who like pretty young decided that church wasn't for him.
Okay.
So, he stopped probably around 14, 15, really like going along with it.
Is he still a quote unquote Mormon, or has he left the faith as well?
Yeah, he's completely, like I said, since the time he was like 14, 15. He wasn't super interested.
No, but not interested, but
not attending at all. Okay. Like not participating in any way. Yeah.
Like if you talk to him now, would he denounce the faith?
It's a good question. We haven't had many faith questions, he and I, or conversations.
Yeah. Okay.
But I don't think he would
still live in Utah?
He lives in Utah.
Among the Mormons?
Among the Mormons, yeah.
Okay, so is he still a part of that culture?
Yeah, I think if you're there, you gotta be. But I wouldn't say he's Mormon, no.
Oh, okay.
You know,
Okay.
I don't know how you make draw those lines, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. So you might not have been, or is it safe to say you're not the first one of your family to deconvert?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
No. But growing up, so he didn't go on a mission.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I'm the youngest. I'm the son. So I felt like some pressure to give my parents a missionary.
Of course,
I had
they
my
need
brother
one.
and my sister.
Yeah. It's like one of us has to carry on the bloodline.
Right. I was like, my dad needs that experience.
Of course.
So I felt that. My friends were all going. It was just like, that's what we were all doing.
Okay.
I did have a moment. I can't remember when it would have been. It would have been like early in my senior year where I was like concocting a plan, like a fantasy in my head, to go down to, my sister went to a school in southern Utah. It's called Southern Utah University. So I applied there, and I had this whole fantasy that I was going to go down there and from a distance, like call my parents and let them know I wasn't going on a mission.
Oh, okay. So you fantasized about getting out of it.
Honestly, I fantasized about not being Mormon my whole life.
Really?
If I can be honest.
Yeah.
Which I'm very excited to talk about your experience because it is so different.
I was so fanatical.
You were so into it. Yeah. I think, sometimes I have some fraud around it, but I never connected with it.
Yeah.
And I just like from a young age, I'd fantasize like, man, if I wasn't Mormon, I just feel like it'd be better.
Okay. So you knew.
I just felt it. And I like I said, but I would really try. I would go, I was an Eagle Scout, like I said.
Such a good soldier.
I was trying. I mean, obedience is like my default setting. Like, I will obey. So I was fantasizing about that. Good. But then, like, as it got closer and closer, friends started getting, like, it's called, you get your mission call. You, like, send in papers, and they send it to you. You read it in front of everybody. Of like, you've been called.
Okay. Like getting your Hogwarts letter. If we could say that.
Yes.
Those words. Those words.
TM. Then where was I? But yeah, as that approached, I was also, like, what I'm getting at is the cultural pressure, right?
Okay.
I also had a girl I was dating at the time who had a missionary boyfriend while we were dating.
Oh my goodness!
So like that's in there.
You were right. What do they call that? Like a cock in the hen house, like while everyone's away, you're like, I'm gonna steal this girl while he's away on a mission. No, okay.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, that's a juicy story.
We gotta
get into that at some point.
Maybe a little bit. But yeah,
just personally.
Ultimately, though, it was all the cultural pressure. So as like I'm wrapping up my senior year, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go on a mission, and then. This is a story I could tell. Like as like my senior year is coming to an end, my grandma passed away.
Yeah.
Who had lived with my family since like 1999, like 12, 13 years. So like I would like help her settle in after dialysis. Yeah. Like very close to her. It's a very big person in my life.
Oh, you helped take care of her.
Yeah. And she passed. Mm-hmm. And that was difficult. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I then give like a farewell talk, like when you go on your mission, right?
Yeah. Okay. And you this is where you stand up in front of everybody. You're like, I'm going on my mission, everyone.
Off, like,
yes. Here's
see
my
you in a
talk.
couple
Here's
years.
my moment. Yes.
Yeah. Here's my.
Oh, okay.
And in that talk, I said, my grandma passing was the spiritual experience I needed to like get the drive to go on a mission.
Oh, okay.
And I wanted that so badly to be true. I said it because I wanted it to be true, and it wasn't. You know what I mean? So
it's an emotional moment anyway.
It was.
That could be the emotional impetus that pushed you to be like accepting it at least, right?
Yeah. But even at the time, like looking back,
you're like, I'm lying to these people.
Yeah, I don't think this is my like rewriting of the past.
Right.
Really.
This is why you need to be a writer, because you're so ready to give people a good story. You're like, let me give you a good story,
right?
Even if it's not true.
All the time.
That's right. Oh, hey, I'm fully behind that as well.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I heard myself saying it, not trying to be deceitful, but really trying to, and not even like a little bit like trying to do what everyone else was, right? Like, this is what you do. Like, you have like a significant experience that drives you closer to Jesus and that drives you to spread the gospel.
Yep.
But even then, I like said it and I shared it and I just like knew in my gut that I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
Which led to like more of that disconnection just like within myself. So I just like more and more felt like disconnected, and I felt like the only way to reconnect was to like find my faith, right? Is to really like get into it and love it, and I never could.
Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. But you tried it. You gave it a good try. You gave it a good go. 2 years, okay, now tell me about this mission, because I'm sure plenty of people are wondering what a mission is like. So give me the lowdown. What is this like? I mean,
it's just a bunch of unprepared
boys.
Where'd
you go first? It's only boys, right?
No, it's women as well. Sorry, that was my bad.
Well, a lot of people do think it's like mostly boys. I mean, that's usually who you see come to your door, right? Like, or at least when I was a kid, that's who was coming to my door.
Yeah, and I think definitely traditionally it was. It's I don't know where it's at now. When I was going out, it was becoming more and more young women were going out too.
Okay.
And so they always had it where like men would go at 19 and women couldn't go until they were 21.
Oh.
And then it changed to men going at 18 and then women going at 19.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I went to Mesa, Arizona.
Okay, you just went
English
to Arizona.
speaking.
You're like, they're not even shipping me very far. 2 states down.
No, a state down.
Oh,
we
one
share
state
a border.
down. Oh, God. Oh, it's one state down. Oh, I know my geography. Yeah.
There's a story. My dad, he went to Europe.
Yeah.
He went to England, London on his mission. He was originally called to Germany and then got sick in the training center that you go to.
No. Okay.
And they're like, we need to keep you closer to home.
Oh, so you go to a training center first.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a
this.
minute.
Okay, all right.
But he, before we get there, so they're like, we're going to keep you closer to home. And they put him with some missionaries going to Flagstaff, Arizona. And then they came back to him and said, oh, you're going to England. You're going to London. And then when he went to the airport, they got on a bus and took a bus down to Arizona. He got on an airport plane and went to London. And so before I opened my call, that was like I said, like that was like a story my dad would always tell.
Okay.
And so like them getting on a bus, him getting on his plane.
Yeah.
And so like before I opened my call, I jokingly yelled like, I'm going to Northern Arizona. And then this happened.
You manifested
I know,
that.
I did.
You said universe.
It's a good thing I did.
Yeah. Okay. As he points to his now wife, who he met in Arizona.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll get to that now. We do training.
Yeah. So you go to. It depends on if you're going to learn a language. I was not. So you go to a training center first.
Okay. Now, where do they are these training centers all over everywhere?
Few.
Where are they?
Major one is in Provo, like near BYU, right?
Okay.
That's where I went. That's where most go. They also. Well,
so like even from out of state, like what Mormons from all over the U.S. will come to Utah to train. All over the world will come to train here.
But I know they do have a missionary training center in Mexico as well, or they did.
Oh.
There was one. So like if you were going to Mexico or Spanish speaking, they started sending you there.
Yeah. I do know. I've heard about them teach you. They make sure you know the language.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I wish I would have learned Spanish. It's like one of my. If I have anger, so I didn't learn Spanish.
Yeah. It's like, y'all couldn't teach me one thing.
Right, come on.
These other ones got to learn at least Korean or something.
I memorized the first vision, but that's it.
Oh, okay.
They have one in Ghana, Africa. Like they have like a couple, but I think like a lot of those are for missionaries like from that country only. Because they do a lot of times like to keep like. If they have like a missionary from Africa, they like to send them to an African country.
Right.
As well.
So like how common is it like that your friends would be sent to Africa or some other speaking?
Everywhere. I had a friend going to Brazil, Paris, Ghana, Africa. They're going all over the world.
Did you have any influence over where you went?
Not really. I think they take like your like cultural background.
Well, who chooses? Like who ultimately
the leaders
chooses?
of the church.
Like who's over there going, George is going to Northern Arizona? Who was it?
I believe it's the apostles in the first presidency.
Now, who are those to you? Like, do you know their names? Were you going to church with these people? Or are they up in a building in Utah somewhere like high up?
Yeah, so the structure of the church is They actually have 15 prophets
Okay.
at one time.
Yep.
You have, technically.
Uh-huh.
So you have a prophet.
Yep.
The prophet that
Yep.
is like God's mouthpiece.
Yep.
He has 2 counselors, the first counselor and second counselor.
Okay.
And they're called the first presidency.
Yep.
So those 3. And then there's a quorum of the 12 apostles. So
Okay.
there's 12 apostles.
Yep.
And then like other quorums of leadership.
Okay.
So they're the leaders of the church. It's
And these are the people that drew your name and said George is going to Northern Arizona. So this was not like your local
well,
church.
I went to Mesa, so it is Central Arizona.
Oh, excuse me, Central Arizona. Your dad went to Northern Arizona or something.
No,
like you said Northern
I
Arizona.
joked I was going to.
Yeah,
Northern
that's right. Okay, so you were wrong.
I was wrong.
You were wrong. Okay,
Just
all right,
close.
All right.
Just close.
Okay, so these people who you don't know chose. Okay, so it's not like, you know, your local church and they're like, oh, Georgie, he's going to go down to Arizona because, that'll be a fun place for him.
No, you submit an application. Really, you do like a whole, like your background.
What's
your
on this app?
Your medical history.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember necessarily what else. I don't know if I had to like write anything or anything like that. Mostly just like my identifying information, a picture. You have to send a picture.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, oh, this boy's going to Arizona.
That's an Arizona boy.
I see that. Yeah. He ain't going to survive down there in Mexico or wherever. No, okay.
Mona?
Okay. Mona's eyeing you right now.
Yeah, she's not into it.
She's like, yeah, he wouldn't survive.
We joke that Mona's still Mormon, so.
Oh, she's judging.
Yeah,
I
she's
see.
like,
Yes,
don't
yes.
talk about it that way.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, I think, they pray over it.
Okay.
They take other considerations into it.
Of
I
course.
don't know enough about the process.
I think my main question was just like, did they know you?
They
Like,
didn't
did they
know
know
me
where
per-
they
they
were
didn't know me
sending you?
personally,
Okay,
no.
they just randomly had to happen to
pick
send you to a
Arizona.
significant place. I mean, there's divine providence right
Yeah,
there.
that's
I mean,
right.
I don't know, y'all.
I don't know.
I might be Mormon by the end of this podcast.
I brought a Book of Mormon. Read this.
It says I lost my faith, but I might get it back. No, I just... okay, all right. So they select you for that, and then you go to this training center. Now, what was your training like? Because you didn't have to learn another language, but what did you have to learn?
They have a manual called Preach My Gospel.
Okay. Did you live there, by the way?
Yeah, you live there.
You live
so
there.
you say goodbye to your family.
Is this like summer camp?
It's sadder.
And what does that mean? Are you like getting up in the morning and you're eating gruel? And you're like, oh, this is all for Jesus. Oh, and you're like all
Do it for
showering under
Jesus.
one spigot and like,
I think you're just all kind of having like various breakdowns at various times
because you're leaving
home for the
all
first
your
time.
comfort.
You're not
you
gonna
don't know
see-
what's going to happen.
Yeah, and you don't see your family for 2 years.
2 years.
Right.
It's 2 years.
You
Goodness.
email every week, and then
You get like one email a week.
one email a week.
That's all they let you
can
have.
read those, and then you can send them off, and then the next
Okay.
week you can read
You can
and
do it
send
again.
off.
Okay.
And then
Dang.
on like Christmas and Mother's Day, you can Zoom. You can do a Zoom. Or a Skype, whatever.
Not Father's Day.
No.
Mother's
No,
Day.
just Mother's. Just for Mother's.
Can I correct something really quick?
Oh,
Sure.
yeah. What's that?
It's not that you only get to send one email. It's you have 1 day a week.
1 day.
One day a week that you can do yes, that's kind of what I got. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it's usually like you just have an hour. Like you have like an
Yeah.
email of
Okay. Well, you gotta share
because
the
your
computer.
time is super structured. Like your time is
Oh.
completely taken over.
All
Like,
right. So we got to talk about,
100%.
so is it the same way in the training center? Are they training you
Yes.
to structure your
yes,
time?
it's very. You get up because it's the
Take
day.
me through a day in the training center.
Day. Oh, I'll take you a day in the mission. The missionary schedule is you wake up at 6:30 a.m.
Yeah.
You exercise for 30 minutes.
Okay. You have to exercise.
You have to exercise for 30
Okay.
minutes.
That's why they're all fit.
No one does it.
Listen, as a young boy with lots of hormones, there were a few Mormon missionaries that came, and I watched them right away.
If they were
And
on their bikes, that's what was
tight.
good. Yeah, that's
it
what's
was
doing
tight.
it.
I mean,
That's
but they are riding the bikes all day.
That's what's doing it.
It's true.
That's what's doing it.
I might have let one or two talk to me because I was like, you can talk to me. Talk to my face.
Sure.
Hello. Hi. What's your name? Yeah, I didn't know what any of it meant. I was like, I already believe.
saw a cute face.
Yeah, this is a cute face.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
hey, when you're that young. All right.
It's
All
something
right.
about
So
the
go
time.
ahead. Go ahead.
So yeah, 6:30 to 7, and then 7 to 8, you're getting ready for the day. You're eating breakfast.
Okay.
8 to 9, you study independently. 9 to 10, you
So
study.
you eat breakfast in 30 minutes?
In an hour. You have an hour.
Hour
to
okay,
shower,
okay.
get dressed.
Yeah.
And then
I was still thinking about the boys. Sorry. Go ahead.
and you because you have a companion.
Yeah.
You're assigned a companion you're with all times.
Okay,
Like
yes.
you can't. I mean, obviously you can be out of each other's sight to go to the bathroom, but other than that, you
That's
can't.
it?
Like you're together.
So you're there to make sure.
You're staying on task.
Okay.
You're
so
doing your
this
stuff.
is
You
your
stay in the same room.
accountability partner.
For sure.
Okay.
100%. Like even, yeah.
There's gotta be some of those that like they fully like have on like full on fall in love and have a moment. Like that's gotta be a story. I mean, I know it's like a fantasy story on gay people, but like, that happens. But you're so involved. That's so intimate.
It is.
That's so intimate. Okay, who was your partner's name?
Oh, you get a new one like every 6 weeks to 3 months.
Oh, okay.
You have transfers.
Oh, okay. So this is like cycling. Okay.
Yeah.
This is not the whole 2 years like you are.
No, you don't have one partner. No.
You're probably driving insane. You're basically married to this person.
Right. No, it's usually like 3 months. It's like the
that's like all you can take, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, yeah.
But yeah, so you study independently for an hour, and then you study together for an hour, and like prep for your day. Like read, share what you read,
and how good at you were the partner with the partner studying? Were you like leading the thing? Like today we're gonna study Second Joseph.
I'd say I would give myself like B+ missionary.
Okay.
Like not perfect. Like I was not like following it to a T.
Yeah,
like, I can admit that.
Maybe fudging the rules where you could, like, okay, we don't have to take this so seriously.
Right.
Okay.
But like I was like pretty on my shit, like doing my stuff. And then the rest of your day is supposed to be out teaching, finding, doing the Lord's work.
Okay.
Then you can come back an hour for lunch, and then we would eat with members. Like there were so many Mormons in Mesa, Arizona, where I served, that they would like have us for dinner. We would encourage them to invite people they wanted us to teach, or we would teach them.
Right.
And then you go out for the rest.
These young children who don't know anything.
Right. Then that's another. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
And then at 9, you come home. You do planning from 9 to 9:30.
Yeah.
And then you have an hour before your lights out at 10:30.
Yeah.
That's every day.
So this is boot camp.
Every day.
I mean, this is boot camp.
Except for one day a week, you have P day, they call it, which after you finish, you do the whole morning routine, you study, and then from 10 to 6, you have free time. And then you're back on it.
Okay, one free day.
And you do laundry and email your family.
Okay. I mean, that's intense for someone like me.
Yeah.
Who is very, first of all, ADHD diagnosed, but just a very free spirit. I have never, ever been able to have a structure like that. Like that is, to me, hell. I mean, I have done degrees of that. And I get out of there and I'm like, that was the most intense experience of my life. Like, what did it feel like to you? Did you get in the mode? Did it take some time?
So, like I said, like obedience is like a thing for me.
Okay,
like
so
I can follow a rule
from the start.
For sure. I mean,
you weren't like, God, I really want to just like, flub off today and not do anything. And it's really hard to stay on the task.
Yeah, no, like I bought into it. I was able to do it. I had just like dread of like the whole 2 years that I was going to do it for 2 years.
Oh, you
I
saw
had, like,
that.
Yeah, like some dread sadness for sure. That's more what I experienced.
Like, this is going to be 2 years of my life where this is all I do.
Like I was counting the days, trying not to. It's like, I can't do that. I still have 22 months. Like, like that was more like what was difficult. And then
again, like you're in prison with the exes just
for sure.
Until the day
like
you
trying so hard
free.
Not to, like, no. And
were other people doing this, having this experience? Were you able to talk to other people about this, or like?
Yeah, like it would depend, right? Because like when you're a new missionary, you come out, so you finish your training in the training center, and that's when they're because there's a specific like lesson plan you follow that you're supposed to like teach people.
Yeah,
they teach you those lessons. You're like role playing. They have people come in and like act like they're non-members, like they're like BYU college students, like come in and like pretend and like they're like crying, and you're like comforting them and like teaching them how to pray and stuff. That's what the training center is. It's like, and you're doing that just like all day.
Yeah.
Then once you get out into the field, they assign you to a more experienced missionary who's been out there for a little while longer.
Okay, so you have some people
who's
who
your
are
trainer?
dedicated.
Who's your trainer? No, they're also only there for 2 years,
Okay,
but they're your trainer.
Yeah.
You can become a trainer. So I was a trainer.
Of course you were. Of course you were an Eagle Scout. Of course.
Yeah, of course.
You trained. Of course you did.
So yeah, like you'd a lot. So it depends. Some missionaries were super bought in. They were super into it, or at least pretending to be.
Were you ever partnered with any of those fanatical ones?
Fanatical companions.
Yeah, like were there any where you're like, okay, this is kind of scaring me. This is gonna be a rough 3 months.
I had this one companion that was
brother.
We're not dropping. I don't know if I could drop names.
Brother Andrew. Sorry,
Elder.
Oh, excuse me, Elder. There it is.
Please.
Okay, I gotta write this down. Elder. Okay.
He was a very interesting gentleman, but then I think he had like sleep apnea or something.
Oh no!
All of a sudden he would sleep for like 25 hours.
Oh.
And I would just watch Mormon messages all day.
Oh, fun. Okay, well that's great.
That happened like 2 or 3 times in like the 6 weeks we were together.
Yeah.
I was like, I guess. But then like when he was awake, he was very like.
Now, do you have to sleep in a room with someone else?
Yeah, you share a room for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So did you experience like sleeplessness because of his sleep apnea? Like, was he like choking in the middle of the night? Because I've had that happen before.
I slept right through it. Yeah.
All right, there you go. Deep sleeper. George is a deep sleeper. All right. We never know if Haley's actually a snorer or not. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We have no idea. I know I am quiet as a mouse all night. Just going to put that out there.
Keep that in mind.
You'll get the best sleep of your life. Okay. Well, interesting experiences. Okay,
yeah.
so
I will say one thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Beyond like the sadness, dread, I did have another difficult time in like that manual. I'll have to review this. I don't want to like misspeak too much, but I know we've talked about this before, but there was a very like blatant we didn't like. It was just said very upfront that you like look for people who have had a recent death. Recent birth, or
this is
recently,
how you
or
go
recently
out and find
moved.
people to evangelize to.
Right, and the idea wasn't like this is all we're looking for, but like ask people about this. Like, do you know anyone who had a recent death in the family, who had a recent birth, or like recently moved?
So they trained you to target people.
Right.
Yeah, and they trained you to target vulnerable people.
Right, and when that was said, like in the missionary training center, it didn't click for me, right? I didn't like hear that and think like that's messed up. I was like, okay, makes sense.
Sounds great.
They need Jesus, right?
I know the way to success.
For sure.
Yeah, this is how we win.
Right.
Yeah.
But then I got into my first area and we met this woman whose husband had just like done a number. He had left her, cheated on her with a younger woman.
Oh, no.
Just like, and I met him once. He was trash. And I'm 19.
Yeah.
I have zero life experience.
You don't know anything about relationships or anything. Yeah.
Hardly know. I had just finished the Book of Mormon for the first time, full disclosure, in the missionary training center. I didn't know what was going on, and this woman was distraught.
And she's looking to you.
She needed support, and like we were
she's
there,
looking to you for spiritual guidance.
and I wanted to help her. Like I wanted to. Like I have like empathy, like as a person. But
you're still a child.
I just like remember just feeling very dirty about like this woman doesn't need me to baptize her. Right now. Yeah. That's not what this woman needs, but that's what I needed to do. Right.
That's what they told you to do.
That's what they
told you was you were supposed to do.
Within they want you on your first visit to invite them to get baptized. That's like number one.
Of course.
But it's just within 3 or whatever. And I just felt terrible. I could find the email, I think, of like emailing, like not feeling good about it. Like I don't want to do
them.
Yeah, to my parents. I think like I was like, I'm not feeling good about this.
You weren't telling like the church leadership or something. Yeah.
No, I'm not going to tell them. Because you have to email your mission president every week as well.
Oh,
like
of course,
send him an
of
update
course.
about how you're doing.
Yeah.
And he gives you like feedback and stuff.
Oh, does he? Was it good?
Depending if it's
Yeah.
concerning.
Like, is he reading these emails?
Yeah,
like,
right.
he's probably got a secretary over there. Like,
For sure.
this one's cracking. You better get some
Honestly,
advice going.
I don't know about that. But then I was able to do my own like self-processing.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
there's like a song I really loved, "Blood" by the Middle East. I don't know if you know that song.
I don't know that
It's a
song.
beautiful song.
Okay,
Really
we'll
lovely song.
play it
I love
right now for everyone. No,
I love it. It's a beautiful
copyright
song.
strike. Okay.
But it's like
let me write that out. Wait, what is it? It's called "Blood"
"Blood" by the Middle East.
by the Middle East. Okay.
And it was a song that's like I loved, like right when I was like leaving my mission.
Yeah.
Very beautiful, lovely song. Like the actual lyrics are very hopeless. It's like about like a divorce.
Some of my favorite songs.
Right, moving away from your family.
Yeah.
Like
I think I've written some pretty hopeless songs.
about like your lifelong partner dying from cancer.
Yeah,
and then like the last line is "There's nothing you can do about it now." And then like a chorus swells of like a children's chorus, right?
Okay.
And it's like about like accepting like that bad things happen and all that. And I was able to utilize that song in my own self to be like, whether or not I'm here, these bad things are going to keep happening.
This is true. Yeah.
And I believe that.
Wow.
Like, and I think, of course, like I've become a therapist. Like I obviously like want to be out here helping people that I may not always know exactly what they're going through. And so like,
do you think that this was a taste for like what you wanted to do?
Oh yeah.
Were you seeing something like some
my mission is
passion
where
in
I
what
found my passion for therapy.
Hey, okay.
Because I found that I hated proselyting.
Proselytizing. Is it proselytizing? Is that what?
Whatever the word
is
is.
that
Like,
the word?
I hated approaching people and being like, I want you to know about Jesus. But I loved getting to know people and like supporting them and helping them.
Actually helping
I didn't
them.
care about whether or not they, and like I loved serving. Like I would do everything I could to just like go paint a tree for somebody and make their day before I would like force them to sit down and listen to 45-minute lessons.
I think this is where we start to converge on like, you know, where we align. Our experiences are very similar. It's like that's very much what religion taught me too. It's
right.
Like, what I love to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're in front of this woman. She's pouring out her heart to you.
Yeah.
She's looking for spiritual guidance. What'd you say?
I don't remember.
Did you do the script?
No, I mean, like, we helped her, like, move some things, I remember. Like, I did do, like, service for her.
Yeah.
She ultimately didn't get baptized, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
She was close with, like, a member of the ward, is what it's called, like, the church congregation we were, like, based in.
Oh, okay.
Since there were so many members, we would, like, be, like, assigned to, like, 3 different congregations at a time that covered, like, a piece of a neighborhood.
Okay.
And so like she was friends with a member of one of those congregations.
Okay.
And like I said, I don't remember. I think she may have moved. I don't really. It's been 10 years now. So I don't remember exactly where that ended. I do remember that I was very much like, I will teach her these lessons, but I'm not gonna. Like, I don't think this is what this woman needs right now. Right?
Yeah,
She needs community support, sure, but like not
a qualified therapist
Therapist.
adult to talk
Yes.
to her about her clear marriage issues. Yes,
She does not need me teaching her about Joseph Smith going into a
19-year-old. I mean, you know. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, before we move on from that, because I just had a thought. Like, were there any scandals with the missionaries during your time that you knew of or that you heard about? That happened while you were out there? Because I can imagine some happen, right?
For sure.
I mean, you're in this house with this vulnerable woman emotionally.
Yeah.
Like, surely some scandals have happened before.
Yeah. I mean, to say like a piece, like we weren't allowed to be alone with members at all. Which I think that was legal protection as well. Because I think there had been some
problems.
For sure.
Yeah, some things happen.
Yes.
For sure. Goes down.
I know. Yeah. I mean, like my mission president told me one time, he said, because the word of wisdom is the name of like the rules around like no coffee, no smoking, no alcohol.
Word of wisdom is big, and we're going to get to this.
We'll get to that.
Word of wisdom is big, but remember that because word of wisdom is a whole thing.
A whole
thing to the church.
Yeah.
Right.
And I don't know why he told me. I can't remember what he confided in me one time. It's like, you'd be surprised how many like missionaries have word of wisdom going on out here. Like
I don't know what that means. What
that were like drinking and smoking.
Oh,
and
word of
like,
wisdom violations.
Right.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, okay. I don't. Like I said, I don't know why he told me that.
Yeah.
I do know a couple of missionaries going to strip clubs for sure that I'd heard about.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Once again, apocryphal or not, I wasn't doing that. I wasn't like close to those missionaries.
Oh, of course.
Like,
You were very good.
I was doing my thing. But that was definitely going on. I know. That's like the closest to the scandals was just like those missionaries doing.
So you grew up without alcohol, without coffee, right?
Yep. I did have some McDonald's coffee one time as a joke.
Oh,
as a joke.
as
Mom.
a joke. Oh no, you can't joke about the word of God. All right. So were you ever tempted by those things of like
No.
drugs or trying things that were outside? It seems like from what I'm getting and what you're displaying about your nature is probably not your nature to
Like seek it out.
push the boundaries
Yeah.
as much. Yeah.
No, and it wasn't super present too. Like if it would have been, I was offered beer once. I remember it was just a random party because me and my friends, like, we were just borderline, just like nerds, just like hanging
I love
out,
that. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
like
yeah,
we
yeah.
weren't like
Yeah.
partying. Like
Yeah.
we got into our girl thing later on, but we weren't like, we weren't party guys. And we did go to like one like Mormon
You weren't
party. No derfing.
No, or derping. Wait, what's derping?
Derping's just dry humping with your clothes on.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's
It was all the rage at Alta High School.
Oh no, the derping. All right, we're gonna get
That's
to the
where they
derping.
derf,
We'll
yeah.
have to get to the derping when we talk about sexuality with religion.
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, for sure.
That's coming up.
Yes,
for sure.
But there was one party we went to that the cops got called, and like we saw a guy try to like make his way into the party with a 6-pack of beer.
Yeah.
He couldn't get in. He turned around, and we were standing on the porch. And he said, "You guys want some?" And we said, and we laughed and said no. That was the only time I was ever offered
Like,
alcohol
offered,
or
yeah,
drugs or
yeah.
anything. So it wasn't present. And like
Yeah.
my friends, we just never got like exposed.
I think that this is something that I've realized about Utah Mormons and even the way I was raised to a certain degree. There was definitely danger a lot closer. Danger, quote unquote. But I think there is like a really massive sheltering just in the state itself. Because it's a dry state, isn't it? Like,
well, you have probably the biggest lobbying party is the Mormon Church, right?
Right.
Most of like a lot of the politicians themselves are Mormon.
Yeah. So
this
this whole area is set up to keep you within the confines of the religion.
sure.
Without you even knowing it.
Yeah.
Without you even being presented with anything contrary to.
Right. Or even thinking that it's a bad thing to be that way.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Of course,
it's not that I was ignorant to that like growing up, but it was like, that's great. That's fine. That's normal. Right? Like that's more like
Right. We're safe. We're protected.
Right. It's a sanctuary. This is the chosen land.
Yes,
Promised
this
land.
is the promised land. This is Garden of Eden.
Right.
This is what
And that's
what
in
heaven is
Missouri.
like.
That's in Missouri.
Oh, is it? Okay. So you went did you go the whole 2 years?
Went the whole 2 years. Well, I came home like 3 weeks early so I could start college.
Now, how was it getting to the end of that 2 years?
It was very rewarding. It was.
Okay.
Right?
How so?
I did it. I made it the whole 2 years.
I accomplished
right?
this.
Yeah, I did it. And like,
do you feel like it gave you something?
oh yeah, like I will be honest. Like I can say like although the like schedule was like terrible, it did help me really become like an organized person.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
A lot of skills I still use, right?
Okay.
And like planning and like I like was kind of I did like planning trainings on my mission and stuff.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was like a thing.
So you learned some life skills.
Yeah, learn life skills. Like of course, like I learned to just like approach random people and have uncomfortable conversations.
Hey, there you
right?
go.
Like
okay.
skills for sure. And like I was recognizing that. I don't think again like I didn't have like a spiritual awakening ever. I tried and tried and tried. I had like various experiences where like I prayed to be the answer to someone's prayer, and like the next day a woman said that, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here. I just prayed yesterday for someone to come." Right? I had those.
Yeah.
They buoyed me. They helped me.
Yeah.
But I never had like my real religious moment that I wanted. And so like when I came home, I very quickly lost the fire again.
Yeah.
And was doing everything I could to skip church. But
Okay. Like you came home, you're like, I learned some life skills. Then what'd you do? You started college.
started school. So Yeah, I was supposed to get home because I left. In
Wait. Oh, you met Halie out there.
I met Halie. Yeah. So
okay. So you did what you shouldn't have been doing.
No.
Oh, okay, okay. This is allowed. This is allowed.
No, we didn't date or do anything. I just knew her.
Oh, you just met her.
So
and you were like, "I'll wait
here's
till my mission is over, baby."
No,
just wait for me. I got you.
Let me defend myself.
Okay, all right.
Here's the story. I had one of my companions was actually somebody I had gone to high school with.
Yeah.
Right. So we were companions. We were companions for like 4.5 months. He and I.
Okay.
5 months, I think.
Oh, extended time.
Extended time.
All
We got
right.
along really well.
Let's go, bro.
Yeah. So we were companions for a long time, and we served together in Haley's ward. Right? Were we companions? That might not be true. No, we were. Yes, we served.
3. You were in a 3 people?
No, and then it was just me and him.
Yeah.
And then it was me and the other one. I don't know why I don't want to use names. I guess I could. I'm not gonna say.
It's fine now.
I guess I won't. It's fine.
Call him Henry.
Henry.
I like that happens to be his name.
And Albert.
Shiloh.
So yeah, we were mission companions, and we were stationed in Haley's ward, like her congregation.
Oh.
I knew Halie. Mm-hmm. Her family were members. I ate dinner at her house.
This is how you met her.
I helped her dad move some I think I helped him move like a desk from his house to his office just because we were bored and needed something to do.
Okay.
But we did not. I don't know that we ever spoke. Do you remember us speaking? Like I said, I was a B+ missionary.
All right.
Okay.
So what was your?
Yeah, Halie was in high school.
What was your
so.
first impression?
I mean, I knew she was a cute girl. Like she
That
was
about
was
it.
cute.
But you weren't thinking like anything
No,
beyond
I didn't.
that.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't have any. I didn't think
This
I'd
wasn't
ever.
like,
I did
I'm
not
gonna
think.
marry that
No,
girl.
I never had like
okay.
I'm gonna ever see Halie win again.
Okay.
I actually had a mission companion who saw a young woman on his mission and felt that he had a revelation that was his wife.
Oh yeah. Well,
He-
as happens.
He
As
told
does
our
happen.
mission
No-
president this, right?
Yeah. Oh no.
And the mission president was like, "That is not revelation.
Yes.
That is not true."
That's your hormones, buddy.
Yes.
But also, I mean, I know the feeling. I have definitely
Right.
felt that before.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like,
I
oh
mean-
God put this person in front of me right here.
I mean,
This
you're
is
you're
meant to
in
be.
this like more of this mission environment.
Yeah,
Everything's inspired. Everything's religious
Oh,
all
yeah.
the time. Every
Oh,
feeling
yeah.
I have is from God. He visited her after the mission. It didn't go anywhere. She ended up marrying a different missionary.
Okay,
That's
of course.
another story. But
Okay.
so yeah, no, I never had any thought like I'm gonna see Halie
You weren't
ever
thinking
again.
you were going to see this girl yet.
No.
Yeah.
That mission companion went home a little bit before I did.
Uh-huh.
And before I came home, he messaged me and told me that he was taking Halie Wind on a date.
Oh.
And I said, "You're an idiot. Why?"
Yeah.
is what I said. I was
Why
like,
did you say that?
Because she was in high school.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
I
the whole
married her, but she was 17. She was in high school. I was like, what do you mean you're taking her on a date?
Yeah.
So that's
'Cause he's what, 19, 20?
he's 20, almost 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Mhm.
And I mean,
Sounds about right.
so yeah, we're gonna talk more about this. And we have some,
Keep going.
we got
It's
some-
okay.
But
You don't have to defend yourself yet.
Yeah. But I'm like, "You're an idiot. What are you doing?" That's in like November.
Uh-huh.
And then I was supposed to go home in January.
Yeah.
Well, it was November when he messaged me. And like I found out about it.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Hey,
Right.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
getting to the date. I'm getting to the date.
Haley's gonna get her chance to tell her
Yeah,
side of the
we'll-
story
he'll-
soon.
yeah.
We will get Haley's side soon, for sure.
For sure. But yeah, so I found out like in November-ish. Once again, I didn't think like much about it. I was just like,
Yeah.
"You're whatever. It's kind of funny, whatever." And then I was supposed to go home in January.
Uh-huh.
I prayed. I received revelation that I was allowed to go home in December.
Oh, okay.
So I went home in December.
Uh-huh.
And
Well, like, how does a date with Halie happen? Like, did you have to ask her father and be like,
I'll get there.
okay.
So then, after I get home,
Yeah.
it's within the first few days that I'm home, I meet up with that mission companion.
Yeah.
We go to a mall in like Midvale, Utah, and we get lunch with another mission companion we had.
just being
Just
hood rats,
reconnecting,
whatever.
you
mall
know,
rats, Yeah.
causing havoc.
Yeah.
And
Talking about
he
Jesus.
was on his way to his date with Halie.
Okay.
And so it wasn't, again, not much. We're just like, okay, like have fun. That's funny, whatever. And lucky for me, Halie will give her side of, well, I guess you don't need to give the side of the date. The date didn't go well.
With this guy.
With this guy.
Oh, we'll talk about it.
Lucky for me.
I will remember this. We'll talk about it.
I believe the next day, Halie then messages me on Facebook and just says, hey, my family's in town. We would love to see you.
Oh.
And I'm just like fresh from my mission, like, oh, it'd be great to see somebody from Arizona, right?
Okay. Now it's coming. Okay, I can't wait to ask about this. Okay,
and
so she was like, listen.
She's like, option A didn't work out, so let's go to a little option B.
What she did is she said, okay, option A asked me on the date, but this is how I get to George. This is it right here.
I can't wait to tell them.
So
she's like, I know this guy doesn't have any riz, but George got the riz.
Nothing but riz.
Got the riz. All right, let's go. Okay.
So yeah, I just went up and went to dinner with her family,
and
then we just kept talking, and then we're married 7 months later, 8 months later.
Damn, he had the riz.
Yeah,
he fully had it.
So we can talk more about like the evolution of that relationship.
Yeah.
My perspective and opinion on that relationship now, and like the development of it.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about marriage and stuff too.
For sure.
That's a big thing. That's a big thing.
But that's how that came about, though.
Yeah. Okay. So, and to kind of get towards the end of your story, so you got married. How long were you Mormons before you started to question or even started to think about not being Mormon?
So yeah, we got married in 2015. I was 21, almost 22.
Yep.
Halie was 18, almost 19.
Yep.
Coming up on 19.
This is around. Okay.
And so that's 2015.
Yeah.
A lot of like and like I said, still just kind of like.
Yeah, are you cruising
in the culture? Not super into it.
You were being a
we were still
Mormon married couple.
Yeah, we got married in the church.
Doing the thing that you're supposed to do.
Yeah, but we fell into a similar pattern of like my family, where we're sleeping in, we're missing church. Like we weren't like super like gung ho again. Some of the time, but we were going. We were going a majority of the time. Like we weren't like we were Mormon and like we were active, we were good, but like we weren't like fanatical again.
Okay.
I just never was it for me, or I think for Halie either. Halie can tell her story, but then for me, I think like the real like start of like my movement, my intentional, conscious moving away from the church was like the 2016 election.
Yeah,
in the sense that like definitely like the politics of the time, but I grew up, of course, like very Republican.
Of course,
very Republican,
as religion tends to be.
Right, and
American religion. At least.
Yeah. And through like the initial Trump like candidacy, all that like election, I was not super political. It's my second election. I'd voted for Mitt Romney when I was 18. Right. He was Mormon. Like what else was I going to do? What else was I going to do?
Be Mormon. Like,
yeah. So I wasn't super political. I'm hearing all like the drain the swamp stuff. I'm like, whatever. I guess that sounds like a good thing. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Okay, you're hearing that. No, we're gonna have to talk about this because
for sure.
You're hearing it all around there. But we will.
I'm hearing it. I'm not being super critical of it, right? I'm very much just taking the information being given to me. I'm downloading my parents' perspective, subconscious. Like I'm not doing this on purpose, but it's what I had grown up doing, and I was doing it. And as like the election approached, the what are they called? Like the Hollywood tapes, or when the grab them by the,
Yes.
That comes out and it shook me. And I was like, I can't vote for this guy. Like I was like, I'm not voting for him.
Okay. So that was your line. You had a line.
That was my line.
Yeah.
I'm not going to vote for him. And my line still didn't allow me to vote for Hillary Clinton at the time.
Of course.
But in Utah, there was this third candidate, like an independent guy running. Something Edward McMullen. Yeah. Something. Evan McMullen, he was Mormon.
So basically, it's on your shoulders that Trump won in 2016.
Yes. Well, listen.
And fully George Alexander's fault. I just want that put on the record. There is
mark that.
Yeah.
But so I'm like, I'm gonna vote for him, and just like, not vote for Trump. I'm standing it out really, but like still voting. Yeah. But then there became this like conspiracy theory that he was actually like a Hillary Clinton plant, that like backdoor was going to just make it so like Trump didn't win Utah.
Yep.
So then the electoral, whatever.
Yep.
I got caught up in that and I ultimately voted for Trump.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So I did.
Wow. I've never heard this before. Okay,
I ultimately
this is the
voted for
first.
Donald Trump. And
Wow. Okay.
it was literally the next day I woke up to news of Islamophobia, of everything.
Yep.
And it was like, I don't know if it was like, the way I remember it was like that day, but like very quickly after I was like, what just happened to me?
Yeah.
Like very like, not even like how could I vote for this guy, which I definitely felt.
Yeah.
But like, how could I let it, like, I didn't agree with any of this. I didn't think about any of this. I tried not to do it, but got pulled back into doing it because of everything around me.
Yeah.
And the moment I tuned into that, I just like was on my trail. And I always think
This was like when you started to really think for yourself.
by the end of 2017, I had decided I was no longer agreeing with the church.
Yeah,
Like I began like taking in different content. I was working in a warehouse, just like unloading trucks at the time, just listening to podcasts, like doing all
Going
that. Going to college. And so by the end of 2017, I'd say like I had been like, once again, I'm like, I still gotta try, because Halie and I are still married. We were married in the temple. We took covenants to like hold up our religion so that we could live together forever. And if I didn't do that, we wouldn't live forever together.
Right. You wouldn't be in eternity together. Yeah. Very serious.
I wasn't sharing this with Halie openly. I was nervous to, of course, and like we can get more into that. Wasn't sharing with my family. Then we ultimately moved to Baltimore, which was like we needed to get away for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But I think for me a lot was like I need space, I need breath, I need this. And then so I was doing my own kind of deconstruction. I opened up more about that to Halie later, and she wasn't quite there. And then in 2020, we really both like together did a lot of deconstruction, and by 2021 we were done.
Yeah. So you're pretty fresh. I mean, it's pretty fresh that you've come out of this religion,
Yeah.
which means you got to see a lot more than I did, because my deconstruction happened significantly earlier. I'd say about 7 years before that.
Okay.
So, or at least it began 7 years before that.
Yeah.
So it's been a while for me. This is very interesting. So, you know, we also have that perspective that is definitely a little bit newer.
Yeah.
A little bit more fresh in the mind.
It's
a little bit more raw, maybe.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I definitely had a very gradual. It was like definitely gradual exit. I think like my intellectual exit and like deconstruction happened, like I said, within like a year. I was pretty certain, like I just didn't believe it. It didn't match my worldview. There were a lot of things like around that same time, the church came out with a very discriminatory LGBTQ plus policy.
Oh, they were like, this is our opportunity, maybe.
It may have just been where the culture was. You're right. But it was like banning like the children of same-sex marriages, like really like banning them from taking part in like church activities. It led to a lot of people at the time like leaving the church in mass. I didn't leave, but it was very much like a I was like, this isn't right. Like I don't agree. And so that stuff all built up, and like I'd say by the end of 2017, I was like, no, this isn't right. But then I did have a space, especially like when Halie and I started more so doing it together, where it's like, maybe I'm not leaving. I'm just going to be like a new Mormon, right? Like that was in this space where I'm like, I'm going to change it from the inside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, of course.
I'm going to be a good Mormon.
This is the natural progression.
Yes.
We'll talk about this too. Yeah, it's a natural progression. You have that.
So we tried to do that.
I'm the new kind of my religion that's going to make it all the right way.
Right. Yeah. So we tried to do that for a little bit. That didn't last too long for us, but but then my actual like physically leaving the church and like informing my families, my family, that was a good like 4 years.
Well, tell me about what it was like mentally when you were going through this. Like, what was going on in your mind? Like, what was going on emotionally? Like,
oh, it was terrible. Like I felt like very isolated because I didn't feel like I could tell anyone, because I had
everyone you knew was a Mormon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Everyone I knew. Everyone that I was interacting with.
So how can you talk to people about it? Yeah.
I knew what they would say. Like I knew that there wasn't really a space to like process it or like, to work through it.
Yeah.
I do think that there are ways that I could have especially like with Halie, like included Halie more in that journey, that I don't think
Sure.
I was mature enough to.
It's
Here's
just
the thing.
hard. It's just hard to know
I was
what's
still,
right.
I was
Yeah.
2016, I'm 22, 23 still. We
Yeah.
married 3 years, but
Yeah.
like I was still just like not equipped to like handle that.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
just-
very isolating
yeah.
because like I said, like I always felt
You also feel that shame of like, how do I present this to my wife who I
Yes.
promised the whole thing to? Like, I married her as this person
Yes.
and now I'm changing it. Like,
Yes.
how am I supposed to feel good about that?
right.
Right.
100%. And yeah, and we believed that we had like taken covenants that would allow us to live forever.
Of
And if we
course.
didn't live
Oh,
up to it,
yes.
we wouldn't.
The special words that let you live forever.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that
Yep.
was scary. Like that, like there was definitely some fear to like the letting go of it.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, but like what was also going on for me at the time that was like making it very present is like, I felt like I was sleepwalking through my life because
Yeah.
there was so much of it that I wasn't connecting to.
Yeah.
Right. I tried to connect with Mormonism for so long and like the spirituality it was offering me.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't connect with it.
Yeah.
And so it made me just like fully disconnect from myself. And I
Okay.
felt like I was sleepwalking. And again, I was projecting into my future and it's like
There
is
was
this-
no George up to this point. Like,
Right.
or,
It
like
didn't feel
not,
like
a,
there
not
was.
a strong sense
Yeah.
of George.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it. I couldn't find it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was projecting. I was like, I guess this is just my life. Like there were like moments where I'd like dip in and out of that. I guess like
Isn't
I
that
just,
amazing?
right. I just never really love it, but just do it. Right.
Yeah.
I guess that's what we do. And,
Yep.
but like really,
It's kind of, I mean, that's kind of what the fundamentalist religions requires, that you be a shell so
Yeah.
that they can form you the way they want you to be.
Right.
And you do what they tell you.
yeah.
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 Being yourself is not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So yeah. So then you start thinking for yourself, maybe making some more concrete decisions for yourself, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're taking control of your life maybe around this time, right? Okay. And then you got out. Like
Yeah.
what was that like, trying to, like, you had to leave your whole community, rebuild your life maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I think like I am very extremely lucky that I have like my partner and Halie. Like, that made it like a lot easier. Just
Yeah.
even the fact that we were able to do that together and weren't traversing like a mixed faith relationship,
Yeah.
which I know people, a lot of people
Halie was
have
down.
to.
She was ride or die. She was ride or die.
She chose me over
That's
the
the
faith.
right one. That's the right one. That's how you know. That's how you know.
Right.
That's how you know.
Yeah, so it was really, it was
Yeah.
definitely really scary. Like
Yeah.
I told my family in a text message, which I like, it is what it is. I wish I
Yeah.
would have done a little bit differently, but
You texted the breakup
I
message.
sent a big old text message.
You sent the text breakup message.
I
Sorry,
did.
I'm not gonna. Yeah.
I did, and then I let it simmer for 3 weeks, and then I called them.
Now, did they try to call you immediately, or did they,
No, my mom did send me a text
kinda-
message.
okay, yeah,
My dad didn't say anything.
Of course, yeah.
My mom was very sad, and then like in her text message,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And like I replied, and I was like, I get it, because like I do have like a lot of empathy for
Of
just like
course.
just the idea that like my family had an idea of who, or not even who I would be, but like what my life would be, and
Yeah.
like how they would relate to me.
Yeah.
Right. And like I have a lot of empathy for that. Like that was something that me making this decision would be like an experience they would go through.
Yeah.
And so I was not like upset at all with like my mom. She let me know I broke her heart and like that. Like it really hurt her. And I was like, I know, Mom, like I get that. Like I
Yeah.
said that in my message. Like I know this is hard. Like I just want
Yeah.
you to know, and like I'm not doing it like I'm not
Yeah.
sending this like without thought, and I
Yeah.
didn't make this decision without thought.
Yeah.
But it's like this is the way it is. It is what it is. Like I don't believe I'm not gonna be part of the church.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I let it sit for 3 weeks, which I think was good. It allowed them to have a minute to think. Had me a minute to think. It was a tough 3 weeks because like I didn't know what was gonna happen.
Right.
Like I didn't know like if I would, because
Yeah.
part of what kept me in for a long time is my parents like really love me a lot. Like my parents
Yeah,
have
of
always
course they do.
really like believed in me, a lot of stuff. But there was, and like this is again, like I don't think this is on them. Like there is like this messaging, like there's a scripture that says like, it's like in Matthew. I won't directly quote it.
Are you talking about the pressure to cut off people who don't believe anymore?
Not that. It's like in the last days, like Satan will lead like even
yes.
the very elect
Yes,
away,
yes,
right? And
yes.
so that was like utilizes this way of like, be careful, like you're the very elect because you're the
Right.
chosen people of like,
Right.
because like that's what Mormons believe, like they're the chosen people, right?
Right,
Like,
and so you're
and so-
special. You're supposed to
so
do
Satan's
great
coming
things for the
hard
faith.
at you.
Yeah, and
Hard
Satan,
at you.
Oh yeah. Oh, I got
Right?
this message.
Yeah, and
I
so
definitely got that one.
yeah, and
Yeah.
so and like there's some condition to that, right? And so I always did have a fear that like my relationship and like the support and love that I was getting from my parents was dependent upon my faithfulness in the church. I felt that. I
Yeah.
did. I'm very again lucky to say that like my parents have not shown that since I've left.
Yeah.
My parents, like I said, we took that beat, we connected, they shared their ideas, like their thoughts of it. My dad mentioned that quote or that scripture. He said I was
course, of
prophecy.
course.
He said
He
I
has
was
to get his 2 cents.
yeah,
in,
he
for
said I was
sure.
prophecy, but all that aside, they have been very, continued to be very loving, very supportive, very proud of me.
Yeah.
But that was something that really kept me in for a long time.
Yeah.
Like not wanting to let them down.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, were you afraid you were going to lose them?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I have a tattoo of these 2 ghosts.
Okay.
About just like, it's from a Harry Styles song is what's based, or like the inspiration, I guess. But it's this idea that just like, I didn't know what that relationship would be.
Yeah.
Like, or if I'd have any, like there was a chance that like I would never be able to talk to my parents again. Right.
Yep.
Or and like, I didn't think that like I guess I didn't suspect that would be the case,
Yeah.
but I knew it was an option. It just was because like it's a big deal. Like it's like leaving the church.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
is
it's
not
huge.
light. It's not
It's
small.
huge. Yeah.
It's huge. So yeah, there's just this uncertainty that
Your whole life is built around it.
yeah.
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 Well, did you lose other people?
Some friendships have definitely changed. Like this.
Okay, changed.
Yeah, just like the way I'm able to.
Well, because I know sometimes the perception is from the outside that Mormons are supposed to cut off anyone who's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, did you experience that or?
No, I
Okay.
haven't. And I do think, again, like, I think there has been a cultural change in that way. And
Yeah. They're like, we're going to have to
I'm
do this or
speaking
we're
from
going to
my
have nobody left.
Right, for sure. Like, I'm speaking from my experience.
Yeah.
I know people do experience that, and there are, like, some members that are more discriminatory and
Yeah.
more, like, I can't associate with non-members.
Well, yeah. How am I going to get to the top tier of heaven?
Right, if you're surrounded by all these heathens, right?
They'll taint you.
So I haven't experienced that super directly. And like, given I had like left Utah and like, I had like the people
You were
that-
already forming relationships outside.
right.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so like a lot of like my childhood friends, like those, like still people like I check in with and everything, but like we didn't have like ongoing like relationship at the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't experience a ton of that myself,
Okay.
but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, like I never told my grandma. That's the one person I never.
Do you wish you had?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes,
hard to know.
yes, I do because like I did lie to her face like one time.
Oh, okay.
It was really
About
hard
this.
about it.
Yeah.
Like I told everyone, but there was just a piece of me again, like that. It's that internal. It's
There's
I didn't
family
want.
pressure there too. I mean, I get told, don't tell your grandparents you're gay.
Oh,
All
yeah,
that type
I'm
of
sure,
stuff.
yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I guess they, yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
There's pressures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like what I said like about my parents, like my grandparents, like tenfold,
Mm-hmm.
like. I don't know if there's anyone that's ever looked at me as positively as them. And so I
Yeah,
did have
yeah.
a lot of anxiety
Mm-hmm.
that I just, for better or worse, like I just never did. I know my dad did tell me that he thinks somebody told her. So I think she knew.
Oh, okay. Well,
I think
hey,
she
yeah,
knew.
there she
But I
goes.
was covering tattoos. I was doing the whole
Oh,
time.
yeah,
She
yeah.
one time asked me if I was paying my tithing and I said yes. And that's like the
She
one thing
rolled
like,
her
I
eyes like, I know
Tell
you're
you
not.
that.
I know
I don't know if she knew it that
I know
time,
you're not Georgie.
but
Well,
yeah.
okay. So the fallout wasn't too great at that point.
No.
Like you weren't having, you weren't bottoming out in your life, like, but okay. And then the rest of the way here, like you came to California.
I was in California when we left.
Oh,
when we
okay,
officially
okay.
we came to California.
You're already in the land of sin.
Yes, I had to leave. Right, it's a requirement.
Absolutely.
I felt it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, 2020 we moved from Baltimore where we went to school. And
Yeah.
then moved here, and then
Yeah.
in, like 2021, like right before my dad's birthday.
Yeah.
That's when I sent the text.
All right.
A couple days before that.
Hey. Okay.
Yeah.
And now you're here.
Now we're here.
I'm glad you're here, George.
Thank you. I'm glad
It's
I'm
amazing.
here too.
Okay. I'm so
too.
glad we're talking about this.
Yeah.
Too.
No.
Like,
Well, yeah. I think we'll get more into like the deconstruction process itself, and then the reconstruction.
Oh,
too.
absolutely. We have so many
Yeah.
topics to talk about. There's so many stories I want to ask about,
Yeah.
and other people's stories too. We got to hear his
Sure.
story soon. Okay,
Cool.
well, this has been great. So we got to hear George Alexander's story,
Winifred
journey. Oh, George Winifred Alexander. Excuse me, George Winifred Alexander. His story, the third story through the Mormon faith, the Church of Latter-day Saints, and Utah, and getting married and going on your mission and coming out the other end, not believing anymore. And what do you believe now? Do you want to share that? Do you want to share a little bit of that?
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
before we go, like where you're at right now.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm very ambiguous, very uncertain.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'd say I left. I think the first thing I defined myself once I left the church and didn't believe in Christianity, right? So at first it was like, okay, I think I'm still Christian.
Okay.
And then I was like, no. And then I think I said I was a hopeful agnostic.
Uh-huh.
So like agnostic, assuming that there is like order or like a power. I mean, like you said, like I think like ultimately you pull down to like semantics. I'm agnostic because who knows? I don't believe in an organized, I guess like universe with like a test we have to pass. I know that.
Okay.
I believe in like something bigger. I believe in like purpose, I'd say.
Oh, okay. This is interesting. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, but like bigger more in the sense of like interconnectedness, I'd say.
Okay,
Like I'm finding.
I mean, you said purpose. Purpose is a big word too.
Yeah. I think, good conversation about like what that actually means or like what that means to different people. But I think like for me, I think whether even if that purpose is like self-contrived, right? Like you tune into what purpose is for you. So it's something I think is worthwhile. And like I think not that I think that there is like a purpose we have to tap into that is the same for every person.
Like some grand
I don't believe,
organizer of everybody's purpose or something.
That's the biggest thing. But I'd say I'm just like very spiritually open and curious. Like I don't necessarily believe in things like spirits and mediums and ghosts, but I like ultimately like I come at things. I'm a therapist. I come at things from like a psychological perspective, and so all those types of things, like I try to find like the psychological like benefit or like even like a horoscope, right? I know it's a lot of like, anyone could relate to it, yada yada. Like I'm like, hey, if you wake up in the morning, you read a horoscope, and it like helps you like feel confident and like moving through your day. I'm like, what's the issue, right? Yeah. There's definitely the lines when it comes to like religion, right? Of like where that crosses.
Sure.
But yeah, I'd say I'm very spiritually open-minded, but like myself, agnostic.
Maybe still feeling it out, seeing what you're willing to accept.
Yeah. Like I think I know I've crossed out what I don't believe. I know those.
Okay.
But still very like,
it might add to that list some.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll see.
Yeah.
But you know some definites that you don't.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, definitely know some definites, but I just think ultimately open-mindedness, and we'll get into it for sure, but I think that's what wasn't working for me about the Mormon faith.
So it was very close-minded.
It was very much, you don't need to search, answers. Man. Like, no, you're done. Like, this is what God looks like. This is his face.
Yeah.
This is what he looks like. And some people like were finding comfort in that, and I was feeling very claustrophobic about it. Like, I was like, I'm not connecting with this.
Yeah.
And for me, the journey of being uncertain about my spirituality has been way more enriching and like way more like interesting and way more fulfilling. So,
well, this is why they have you target uncertain people or people who are going through turmoil. Because they need someone to tell them.
Right, a tether. Yeah.
This is the answer. I have all the answers. Don't worry. You don't have to worry anymore.
Right. All this is going on. You don't need to think about this.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Well, all right, George. This has been amazing.
All right, we'll get into you next week.
Yeah, we'll get to me next week. That sounds good. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up here. I lost my faith, and all I have left, all I got. I lost my faith, and all I got was this podcast. All I have left was this podcast. This is it, George. Don't let me down. All right. We'll see you next week, and I'll tell my story.
Nice.